every day. If she missed even one, she'd be punished with a hot curling iron. The more pain Dong-eun felt, the more excited Yeon-jin got, until Dong-eun's body was covered in bruises. Dong-eun wanted to ask her homeroom teacher for help, but he simply said that it wasn't violence without broken arms or legs. Dong-eun called him a cold-blooded bystander, which made him furious. He rolled up his sleeves and slapped her repeatedly, refusing to stop, even when others tried to hold him back. With no other choice, Dong-eun called the police, but Yeon-jin's mom bribed the police, so they dismissed it as childish conflict and didn't follow up. Dong-eun's resistance only fueled the bullies' anger. They went to her house, took her piggy bank, and told her to dance for their amusement if she wanted it back. Helpless, Dong-eun obeyed. Looking at Dong-eun's fair legs and the iron on the floor, Yeon-jin had an even nastier idea. In the next moment, Dong-eun's screams echoed through the hallway. Desperate, Dong-eun stood on the rooftop. She wanted to jump and end her painful life, but the fear of death made her hold back. She broke down, crying, with no one to understand her suffering. Her burning wounds started to itch, so she rubbed her legs with snow, then her arms. Finally, she lay down in the snow to ease her pain. The next day, Dong-eun filed to leave school, citing bullying. The teacher didn't agree since it would hurt his own performance. He teamed up with the bullies' mothers and bribed Dong-eun's mom. Without hesitation, Dong-eun's mom changed the reason for her leaving. When Dong-eun got home, her landlord told her that her mom had moved out that morning. Seeing her dropout reason changed to unable to adjust to school life. Dong-eun couldn't believe her own mother's betrayal. Her wounds itched painfully, and her heartache went deep. With no one to rely on, Dong-eun knew she had to become strong herself. So Dong-eun went to find her bullies. This time, she was no longer weak. Her eyes were fierce and determined. She told Yeon-jin that from now on, her one dream was Yeon-jin. 20 years passed, and Yeon-jin became a weather reporter, married into a wealthy family, and had a lovely daughter. Now it was time for Dong-eun's revenge. She rented a place across from Yeon-jin's house to watch every move of Yeon-jin's family. Every night she would go through Yeon-jin's trash, hoping to find useful clues. One night, Yeon-jin's nanny noticed her. Dong-eun had avoided the security cameras, but not the nanny's sharp eyes. Dong-eun tried to pay her off, but the nanny refused, saying she didn't want money and wouldn't report her. Though she didn't know what Dong-eun was up to, she admired her dedication, coming every night for 6 months. So she offered to help Dong-eun. Dong-eun asked what the nanny wanted in return. The nanny asked Dong-eun to kill her husband. It turned out the nanny's husband was abusive, even hitting their daughter. She couldn't stand this life anymore. The two women, sharing a similar pain, quickly agreed to work together. Dong-eun gave the nanny pictures of her bullies and asked her to spy on them and collect information. Through the nanny's findings, Dong-eun discovered Yeon-jin often took her daughter to an eye specialist. She found out it was a clinic specializing in color blindness correction. Color blindness is genetic, and one of her bullies, Jae-jun, was born colorblind. In school, he often got violent when others made fun of him. For Jae-jun, color blindness was his biggest weakness. To confirm her suspicion, Dong-eun went to Myung-oh, who had once been Jae-jun's sidekick, and still followed him around. Myung-oh worked hard every day and endured Jae-jun's constant insults, which left him resentful. Dong-eun told him she had a secret that could ruin Jae-jun. Tempted, Myung-oh agreed to help. With his help, Dong-eun got a few strands of Jae-jun's hair. She planned to do a DNA test between Yeon-jin's daughter and Jae-jun. But Myung-oh was curious. If Dong-eun wanted revenge, why was she leaving him out? Dong-eun said he had nothing to lose, while others had plenty to lose. This only made Myung-oh more determined to bring down Jae-jun. However, Dong-eun never planned to spare Myung-oh. He wasn't without anything, at least he still had his life. Soon, the nanny brought good news. She found out that the chairman of Yeon-jin's daughter's school was having an affair with his driver. Dong-eun used this to threaten the chairman and managed to become the homeroom teacher for Yeon-jin's daughter. But Dong-eun's goal wasn't just the child. She was also targeting Yeon-jin's husband, Do-yong. She learned that Do-yong loved playing Go, so she sought help from her college friend Ju, who was a Go expert. With Ju's coaching, Dong-eun's Go skills improved quickly. Ju even started to like her, but Dong-eun kept her distance. For her, love was far off. She only wanted revenge. Soon, Dong Yoon went to the Go Club and won several games against the owner, betting $200 per game. Her bold wins caught Do Young's attention outside. He couldn't take his eyes off her. Not only was her Go skill impressive, but she was also very attractive. Back home, Do Young reviewed Dong Yoon's games, puzzled by how she held back from winning too quickly. He grew more curious about her and eagerly looked forward to playing with her. But after that day, he didn't see Dong Yoon again. Just when he was leaving in disappointment, she appeared. Finally, he got to play Go with her, just as Dong Yoon had planned. Do Young asked what she did for a living. Calmly, Dong Yoon said she tricked simple-minded men, took their money, and broke their hearts. Do Young asked if business was good. Dong Yoon said no because she was a good person. Her answer surprised him. Seeing her goal reached, Dong Yoon won the game and got up to leave. Do Young quickly tried to stop her, asking if she wanted to play one more game. To deepen his curiosity, Dong Yoon refused. She then waited at a convenience store on Do Young's way home. As expected, he stopped his car, handed her his business card, and asked if they could play Go together sometime. But Dong Yoon still turned him down. It made Do Young want her even more. He even didn't realize he was being secretly photographed. The next day, Dong Yoon met her old college senior for a meal. This man, who was not very good looking, was the son of her high school homeroom teacher. Dong Yoon forced herself to make small talk with him despite feeling disgusted. She then paid a visit to the homeroom teacher's house and reminded him that she was the Dong Yoon who dropped out in 2004. The teacher seemed to remember her. Just then, her senior came back. Dong Yoon greeted him warmly, pretending she didn't know anything. She also made a point to say she'd known his father for a long time. Dong Yoon purposely handed a bouquet to the teacher, who was allergic to pollen. Her senior quickly took the flowers instead. Dong Yoon said the flowers were a gift to celebrate his success in passing the civil service exam. Embarrassed, he admitted he'd only passed the first round and still had to go through an interview. Dong Yoon told him he'd surely pass because he came from a family of educators. She also mentioned how friendly the teacher was when she handed in her dropout form. Hearing the threat in her words, the teacher got angry and threw the flowers at Dong Yoon, saying he should have killed her back then. The commotion drew the attention of neighbors, so the senior had to push his father inside to protect his reputation. Dong Yoon then told him what happened in the past, forcing the senior to choose between his career and his father. The senior chose his civil service career without hesitation. He filled the room with flowers. Watching his father fall from the allergy, he didn't waver. Only after his father had stopped breathing did he call an ambulance. The teacher's death was the first step in Dong Yoon's revenge. Next, it would be the bully's turn to pay. It was the same gym. As the rich wife of a tycoon, Yeon Jin was awarded the title of honorary alumni. The other bullies showed up to celebrate. Just as Yeon Jin was about to give her speech, loud cheers suddenly filled the room. It was Dong Yoon. Her applause lifted the whole gym's atmosphere. After the ceremony, Yeon Jin angrily walked up and slapped Dong Yoon. Jae-jun stepped in to stop her. Dong Yoon didn't get mad. Instead, she congratulated Yeon Jin. Yeon Jin had fulfilled her dreams. She had a decent job, married into wealth at the peak of her beauty, and was living a happy life. But Dong Yoon's dreams were just beginning. Yeon Jin realized Dong Yoon had been investigating her and angrily demanded to know her purpose. Jae-jun tried to calm her, warning her to watch her image, and even apologized to Dong Yoon on her behalf. But Dong Yoon didn't accept it, and even mocked their strange relationship. Jae-jun, seeing Dong Yoon's attitude, stopped pretending. He taunted Dong Yoon, saying she was just a weak, invisible girl in high school, but seemed colorful now. Dong Yoon shot back, asking if Jae-jun had ever really seen anything colorful. Her words hit him hard, and he felt embarrassed. After saying goodbye to them, Dong Yoon turned and left. Soon after, Yeon Jin got a call from her daughter. She found out her daughter's new homeroom teacher was Dong Yoon. She rushed to the school, but only Dong Yoon was in the classroom. Dong Yoon told her this wasn't a coincidence. Yeon Jin smirked, not taking Dong Yoon's threat seriously. To her, Dong Yoon was still the same lowly girl from back then. She thought she could handle her easily. But suddenly, she received news that their high school homeroom teacher had died. Shocked, Yeon Jin looked at Dong Yoon, who hinted that things weren't so simple. Yeon Jin suspected Dong Yoon was involved in the teacher's death. Dong Yoon didn't deny it. Now Yeon Jin was a bit afraid. Then, as a teacher, Dong Yoon brought up Yeon Jin's daughter. Yeonjin exploded in anger, warning Dong-yoon to stay away from her daughter. That was exactly what Dong-yoon wanted, to make Yeonjin live in fear every day. Yeonjin instantly lost her arrogance, afraid of what Dong-yoon might do to her daughter. When her daughter came home, Yeonjin quickly asked if she'd been bullied at school or hit by a teacher. As she spoke, she started checking her daughter's body, worried about burns. Her daughter said such behavior was awful, and people like that should be punished. Her words made Yeonjin panic. She couldn't let her daughter know about her past actions. She needed to keep her daughter away from Dong-yoon. So, Yeonjin went to the principal, offering money to expel Dong-yoon. But the principal said Dong-yoon was appointed by the chairman and that he had no authority to act. After being refused, Yeonjin had no choice but to give up. Meanwhile, Yeonjin's daughter got into an argument with a classmate who said cherry blossoms should be pink, while she had painted them blue. Dong-yoon stepped in to mediate but noticed Yeonjin spying from the door. She then put a pair of scissors on the girl's shoulder on purpose, which scared Yeonjin. Right after class, Yeonjin went to Dong-yoon and offered her money to leave. She even asked Dong-yoon to write a promise to stay away from her daughter, just like the way Dong-yoon's mother signed the dropout form. But Dong-yoon, who had planned her revenge for years, wasn't after money. She then brought up Yeonjin's daughter's artwork, saying she knew the girl was colorblind and that her real father was Jae-jun. Hearing this, Yeonjin's face turned pale. Dong-yoon assured her she wouldn't harm the girl, but she needed to talk to her parents. However, she wondered which father she should talk to. Faced with Dong-yoon's threat, Yeonjin was angry but stayed quiet. So she tried to sweet-talk her husband and suggested sending their daughter abroad to study. When Do-young asked why, Yeonjin said her daughter's teacher was a bit crazy. Do-young was confused and said he'd go see the teacher himself. Yeonjin got nervous and quickly changed the subject. Meanwhile, Dong-yoon had gotten hold of dirt on 2 other bullies from Maeyong-oh Sa-ra's drug records and information about the wealthy family Hae-jong wanted to marry into. While Sa-ra was praying in her father's church, she suddenly noticed Dong-yoon staring at her, and a bad feeling came over her. Dong-yoon went to Sa-ra and threatened her about taking drugs. She demanded Sa-ra fill the bag with money within 2 weeks, or she would face the consequences. Sa-ra was furious, but this time Dong-yoon didn't back down and pushed her away. Because of the drugs, Sa-ra lost some hair when pulled. Dong-yoon warned that this was only the beginning. Under Dong-yoon's threat, Sa-ra had to pack the money and bring it. She still thought money could solve everything and acted arrogant, telling Dong-yoon to take the money and disappear. But Dong-yoon would not let her off easily. She said she would make Sa-ra live in hell. Sa-ra asked what Dong-yoon wanted, but Dong-yoon did not bother to talk to her, leaving Sa-ra screaming in rage. Meanwhile, Dong-yoon had the nanny follow Hye Jae-young and secretly switched her phone. By the time Hae-jong noticed, it was too late. Dong-yoon had cracked the password. Inside were selfies of Hae-jong with various men and news of her upcoming marriage. Hae-jong was the weakest member of the bullying group. If not for Dong-yoon showing up, she would have been bullied. She desperately wanted to marry into a wealthy family to gain status. As part of her plan, Dong-eun gave Maeyong-oh an address and suggested he go if he wanted to make money. When Maeyong-oh arrived at the funeral home, he found So-hee's body, the girl they once bullied. Though the police ruled So-hee's death a suicide, her parents didn't believe it, so they preserved her body. Dong-eun told Maeyong-oh that she had seen Yeonjin push So-hee off the building, and So-hee's name tag in her hand was proof. Maeyong-oh was thrilled to learn the real killer and planned to blackmail Yeonjin for 10 million. Dong-eun said whatever money he got was his, but he had to record Yeonjin's confession. Then, following Dong-eun's orders, Maeyong-oh called the other 3 bullies, and even Yeonjin's husband, Do-young. Surprisingly, that night, Maeyong-oh died mysteriously. However, they just thought he was missing. No one dared to call the police since each of them had done bad things. Soon after Maeyong-oh's death, Do-young received an anonymous package. Inside were Maeyong-oh's business card and photos of Do-young with Dong-eun at a convenience store. Confused, Do-young called the number on the card, but it was turned off. To figure things out, he went to see Jae-jun. Jae-jun said he couldn't reach Maeyong-oh either and asked if Maeyong-oh had been threatening him. Seeing that he said nothing, Jae-jun purposely took out his cigarettes, the same brand that Yeonjin smoked. They were even high school classmates. A seed of doubt began to grow. It turned out Jae-jun had also received an anonymous email. It contained a DNA test showing a 99% match with Yeonjin's daughter. He became furious. Yeonjin had let his own child call another man dad, so he deliberately exposed himself to Do-young. Do-young went home and started probing Yeonjin, asking if she often met high school friends. Yeonjin said she sometimes visited Jae-jun's shop to buy clothes. When Do-young asked about Myung-oh, Yeonjin's expression shifted. She asked if Myung-oh had threatened him. Do-young found it odd that everyone assumed he was being threatened by Myung-oh. Yeonjin didn't know how to reply. He didn't ask further because he had figured it out. When he picked up his daughter from school, he asked if her new teacher was bad. She said no and mentioned the teacher was an old friend of her mom's from high school. Do-young was certain now that Yeonjin was hiding something. That's why he tested her. Her silence seemed to confirm it. Yeonjin noticed her husband acting strange. She checked her car's navigation and found that Do-young had recently been to Jae-jun's club. Afraid Do-young discovered her affair, Yeonjin confronted Jae-jun, asking what he told her husband. But Jae-jun was even angrier. He grabbed her by the neck and asked why she used his daughter to keep her wealthy marriage. Luckily, she broke free at the critical moment. To calm him, she had to use her trump card. But Jae-jun did not forgive her easily. He even showed up at school for his daughter's parent-child event and told Do-young he was there to see his illegitimate child. Seeing his hostility, Do-young grew suspicious. Right then, Dong-eun walked in. When Do-young learned she was his daughter's homeroom teacher, he sensed things weren't so simple. So he met with Hae-jong to ask about Yeonjin and Dong-eun. Hae-jong told him how Yeonjin bullied Dong-eun in high school. From the very first day of school, they had bullied Dong-eun in various ways, and she wasn't the only victim. Hearing these cruel acts, Do-young felt a chill. He finally understood that his encounter with Dong-eun wasn't by chance. And Hae-jong's betrayal had a reason too. She had received an anonymous letter with photos of her with various men. She tossed them in the trash, feeling she had no time to deal with it since she was about to marry into a wealthy family. But her future mother-in-law wanted her to undergo a private health check, which made Hae-jong nervous given her past. She eventually bribed the doctor to settle it. When she handed the health report to her future mother-in-law, the woman then asked her for a credit report, fearing she might have debts. Suddenly, the woman's face lit up as she warmly greeted someone. It was Dong-eun. They had met while praying at a temple. Dong-eun pretended not to know anything and greeted Hae-jong, mentioning they were high school classmates. Hae-jong was too embarrassed to speak. The woman seemed to prefer the polite Dong-eun as her future daughter-in-law. Watching Dong-eun leave, the woman's face darkened as she glanced at Hae-jong, who only flirted with her son. Facing her contempt, Hae-jong dared not say anything. She quickly stopped Dong-eun from leaving, asking to talk elsewhere. In the temple's back courtyard, Hae-jong immediately knelt, begging Dong-eun not to tell her mother-in-law about the bullying. She claimed she was forced by Yeonjin to bully Dong-eun. She came from a poor background. Now she was finally about to marry into a rich family. She begged Dong-eun to let her go. Dong-eun said nothing, picking up a fire poker and pointing it at her, making her fall to the ground in fright. Dong-eun tossed the poker aside, mocking her fear. Back in high school, they had tormented Dong-eun like this every day, feeling no guilt. No matter what Dong-eun said, Hae-jong kept apologizing. But Dong-eun stayed firm. She wouldn't forgive her. Losing patience, Hae-jong wiped her tears and showed her true nature, asking what Dong-eun wanted. Dong-eun calmly took a phone from her bag. Hae-jong suddenly realized it was her lost phone. She panicked completely. All her secrets were in Dong-eun's hands. Dong-eun told her that as long as she behaved, she wouldn't visit her mother-in-law again. Hae-jong quickly pledged loyalty, asking what she needed to do. Dong-eun wanted her to report that Myung-oh was missing. Soon, the other three realized the police were looking into Myung-oh's disappearance. They started suspecting each other for calling the cops. But suspicion quickly fell on Hae-jong, the one with the lowest status. Sa-ra hit Hae-jong. This made Hae-jong want revenge. At this point, Dong-eun had everything in place for her revenge. She planned to drag them all into the abyss. But she still had one thing left to deal with. Ju, who had been messaging her for 7 years. This time, she finally replied. At first, Ju thought his phone had glitched, but he was soon overjoyed. He immediately asked her to meet him under the big tree where they used to play chess. To keep Dong-eun from disappearing again, Ju confessed his feelings to her. But Dong-eun stayed silent, and Ju instantly understood. What Dong-eun needed now wasn't a prince, but someone willing to be her executioner. Soon after, Dong-yoon got another message from Ju, asking her to open her heart and give him a chance. But nearby, someone was grilling meat. The sizzling sounds brought back painful memories of her bullying. Dong-yoon collapsed to the ground. A passerby woke her up. Dong-yoon, in a sorry state, went to Ju. She confessed her revenge plan, hoping it would drive him away. Ju tried to convince her to let go of her hate and free herself. Hearing this, Dong-yoon laughed and rolled up her sleeve to reveal her scars. Ju was shocked. She said he'd only seen one arm and was already reacting like this, yet he wanted her to forget the past. Ju was speechless. Dong-yoon stood up, took off her coat, and showed all her scars. Ju was horrified, unable to imagine the torture she had endured. Dong-yoon said she had no dignity left. She was just broken ruins. So she asked Ju to stay away. At that moment, Ju felt only pity for her. He said he would be her executioner. He even wanted to kill the bullies right then. But Dong-yoon replied that destroying everything they held dear would be better than killing them. Do-young questioned Yeon-jin about bullying Dong-yoon. Yeon-jin denied it, saying she was the real victim. Seeing his shameless wife, Do-young said no more. He went to the plaza for a walk and saw Ju, a skilled Go player surrounded by onlookers. Do-young, who also liked Go, joined in. This was exactly Ju's plan. The familiar moves made Do-young realize something. He asked Ju what he did, and Ju said he was helping someone get revenge. Do-young knew he meant Dong-yoon. He commented that revenge was hard in Korea without guns, but Ju said he had a knife, close enough he could kill with one stab. This was Ju's way of declaring war for Dong-yoon. That evening, Dong-yoon gave the nanny money she had gotten from Sa-ra, asking her to send her daughter abroad. What Dong-yoon promised, the nanny would be fulfilled that day. The nanny's daughter would hear of her father's death abroad, but she would be away from her mother, who plotted to kill her husband. Though sad, the nanny knew this was likely best for her daughter. Meanwhile, Yeon-jin started her own counterattack. She hired someone to investigate Dong-yoon and found out Dong-yoon lived across from her. Yeon-jin paid someone to unlock Dong-yoon's door. Inside, what she saw stunned her. The walls were covered with photos of everything the four of them did from high school to now. Yeon-jin felt a chill. She regretted it. She shouldn't have bullied Dong-yoon, but should have killed her. Suddenly, the door opened behind her. Yeon-jin thought Dong-yoon returned and prepared to end it, but it was her husband, Do-young. Yeon-jin was shocked but quickly asked why he was there. Do-young said nothing. The pried-open lock showed how terrible Yeon-jin was. Facing his silence, Yeon-jin went crazy. She asked if he was interested in another woman. Do-young only asked if she had bullied Dong-yoon. She lied again, saying they just didn't get along. She pretended to be the victim, accusing Do-young of doubting her. Then she left. Looking at the wall, Do-young saw a photo of his daughter with Jae-jun. He suspected even more that his daughter wasn't his. The next day, Dong-yoon confronted Yeon-jin about breaking into her house. She told Yeon-jin to turn herself in, and even showed proof of Yeon-jin's past bullying. Yeon-jin wasn't scared at all and shouted for Dong-yoon to call the police, saying she had hundreds of ways to escape. Dong-yoon warned it was her last chance. Yeon-jin showed no remorse and even said Dong-yoon should thank her. If it wasn't for her, Dong-yoon wouldn't have had the drive to become a teacher and change her life. Yeon-jin's arrogance erased any guilt in Dong-yoon's heart. With everything now out in the open, Yeon-jin didn't plan to sit still. She found out that Dong-yoon owned 2 cars and tracked down the nanny helping her. Yeon-jin was furious that her former nanny was now working for her enemy. Since Yeon-jin knew her address, Dong-yoon had to pack up and leave. Just as she was about to go, she remembered something. She dumped her photos on the floor, searching for a missing one. But it wasn't there. A sense of dread came over her. That photo was indeed in Yeon-jin's hands. It showed the nanny's abusive husband. Yeon-jin used the photo to threaten the nanny, saying that if she didn't help her, she would tell her husband everything and even go to her daughter's school. Hearing this, the nanny got scared and started apologizing, which made Yeon-jin a bit satisfied. She had the nanny write down her number to make future contact easier. She even promised to help the nanny get rid of her husband, claiming she'd do it faster than Dong-yoon could. With these terms, the nanny couldn't refuse. When Dong Yoon arrived at their meeting place, the nanny didn't show up. Yeon Jin then found Dong Yoon's mother and convinced her to make Dong Yoon leave the school. Greedy for money, her mother quickly agreed. The next day, she stormed into Dong Yoon's school, making a scene to embarrass Dong Yoon in front of her colleagues. She even demanded money from parents in Dong Yoon's name. Parents complained to the school, asking for explanations. Dong Yoon, furious, confronted her mother. Seeing all the luxury items her mother had bought, she felt even more betrayed. She couldn't understand why her mother would side with the people who hurt her, but her mother only cared about her luxury goods. Enraged, Dong Yoon grabbed scissors and cut up her mother's bags. Her mother hit her and even scratched her face in anger. Dong Yoon's heart was shattered, but she knew this was all Yeon Jin's doing. Dong Yoon called Hai Jong, asking her to bring Yeon Jin to Ju's beauty salon. When Yeon Jin arrived, Hai Jong casually mentioned meeting Do Young and that Dong Yoon had played chess with him. This made Yeon Jin furious. Dong Yoon had two reasons for doing this. First, she wanted Ju to get Yeon Jin as a regular client. Second, based on Yeon Jin's personality, she would definitely question Do Young about why he's siding with an outsider. This pushed the already angry Do Young to explode. He told Yeon Jin that everything he did was to protect their daughter. He said if Yeon Jin felt any guilt, she should live quietly. Yeon Jin was shaken and sensed Do Young might know something. Feeling down, she went to Ju's salon to get a facial. As the anesthesia kicked in, she started feeling drowsy. Ju asked her what she had done to Myong-oh. It turned out that after Myong-oh discovered the true culprit behind So-hee's death, he called the 4 bullies to blackmail them, but 3 ignored him. So Myong-oh directly targeted Yeon Jin and called Dong Yoon. He demanded Dong Yoon to give him Yeon Jin's name tag, or else he would team up with Yeon Jin against her. Dong Yoon ignored him, expecting this betrayal. Myong-oh put his last hope on Yeon Jin. At first, Yeon Jin didn't want to deal with him, but when he mentioned So-hee, she quickly agreed to meet. At the meeting spot, Yeon Jin found Myong-oh secretly recording. She poured alcohol on his phone, warning him to stop his tricks. Hearing this, Myong-oh directly threatened her, demanding 40 million won and claiming to have evidence in his pocket. Yeon Jin quickly grabbed what was in his pocket, but it was just a condom. Myong-oh was now sure that Yeon Jin was the one who killed So-hee. Yeon Jin got angry after being played. Then, Myong-oh demanded another 10 million from her. Yeon Jin slapped him. But Myong-oh didn't get mad. He said that if she couldn't pay, she could sleep with him as a trade, 10,000 per time. Hearing his insults, Yeon Jin couldn't hold back anymore. She picked up a bottle and made a wrong decision. Myong-oh struggled and scratched Yeon Jin. When Yeon Jin realized what she had done, she was terrified. She quickly erased her fingerprints and called Officer Shin for help. He promised to destroy all the evidence for her. Yeon Jin woke up suddenly. She turned and saw Ju smiling beside her, which scared her even more. Ju said it looked like she had a bad dream and suggested she rest a bit, but Yeon Jin was frantic, demanding to find the surveillance footage and delete it. Ju pretended to reassure her, saying she might still be dizzy because the anesthesia hadn't worn off yet, but fear was driving Yeon Jin to escape. She couldn't even tell what was real anymore. Although Ju didn't get solid evidence, he was certain that Myong-oh wasn't missing. Meanwhile, Officer Shin tampered with the body. He secretly hid it and even hired someone to guard it. Since Myong-oh couldn't be found, the police went to ask Jae-jun if anything strange had happened before Myong-oh disappeared. Jae-jun mentioned Do Young, saying he had met with Myong-oh before he vanished. He even showed them Do Young's business card. Soon, Do Young heard about Myong-oh's disappearance too. His assistant handed him a USB drive that Myong-oh had left for him. From the recordings on it, Do Young discovered Yeon Jin had cheated on him with Jae-jun. But what broke him most was learning that the daughter he loved so much was Jae-jun's child. After Myong-oh disappeared, Sa-ra was the most shaken. She was afraid the police would trace her, since Myong-oh was the one getting her the powder. Hae-jung became everyone's punching bag again. Fortunately, Jae-jun stepped in and stopped the fight between them. Yeon Jin took out the evidence of bullying that Dong Yoon had collected, hoping to get everyone to turn against Dong Yoon. But Sa-ra didn't care because school bullying only affected Yeon Jin as a TV host, not regular people like them. Yeon Jin was stunned. She never thought she'd face isolation. Meanwhile, Dong Yoon was meeting the nanny in the parking lot. Dong-yoon had already guessed that Yeon-jin would contact the nanny, so she called the nanny ahead. But before Dong-yoon could finish talking, Yeon-jin drove over. So, nanny pretended to betray Dong-yoon, playing a double agent. Seeing Yeon-jin begin to fight back, Dong-yoon knew she had to speed up her revenge plan. Meanwhile, there was a creepy male teacher at the school. He would secretly take photos under girls' skirts while they played. Dong-yoon noticed this in time and made an excuse to call the kids back to class. The teacher got mad and threatened Dong-yoon in the office. The next moment, Jae-jun barged in and hit the man on the head. Dong-yoon had sent Jae-jun a package with photos of Yeon-jin's daughter being secretly photographed. He couldn't stand someone treating his daughter this way. Soon, everyone was taken to the police station. The police suggested they settle the matter peacefully, but Jae-jun refused, wanting the man jailed. Do-young's lawyer also arrived, as he also heard about the photos. Despite the lawyer's advice to settle, Jae-jun still insisted on pressing charges, creating a major disagreement between them. Do-young questioned Jae-jun, asking what right he had to file a lawsuit. Jae-jun was infuriated, realizing Do-young knew he was the girl's biological father. The two began to fight, each landing a punch on the other. When Yeon-jin got home, she found out that Do-young had sent their daughter to her grandmother's house. She immediately started questioning him about why he sent her away, but Do-young didn't want to talk to her at all. Yeon-jin kept pushing, demanding to know the reason. Finally, Do-young told her that her lover had gone to their daughter's school and caused trouble. Jae-jun even claimed he was the girl's real father, which made Do-young furious. Yeon-jin had no way to argue, and their relationship broke down. Meanwhile, Dong-yoon began her next step. She secretly sent the nanny's daughter overseas. When the man found out the girl was missing, he was furious. The nanny didn't dare resist, only holding her phone tightly, waiting. When the phone lit up with a message saying her daughter had landed safely, she finally relaxed. After that, she decided not to put up with his abuse anymore. She grabbed her bag and tried to leave. The man pulled her back, and in the struggle, things spilled out of her bag. Realizing she was planning to leave with money, he asked where it came from. The nanny said she got it by doing a job for someone. He became curious, asking what kind of job paid so well. She explained that a woman had asked her to send threatening messages to someone. The man thought the job was easy, so he volunteered to do it. Soon, Yeon-jin's mother received a message. She panicked immediately. From that day on, the man kept sending blackmail messages, hoping to get rich this way. Yeon-jin's mother quickly contacted Officer Shin, who had worked on the case years ago. She asked why the body kept in the morgue for 18 years hadn't decomposed, and how someone could know the truth. Officer Shin was shocked too. After bribing the morgue's supervisor, Yeon-jin's mother learned that the body had been kept in the hospital's freezer all this time. Years ago, the police had closed the case as a suicide. The body's storage period ended quickly, and the hospital asked So-hee's family to take the body for burial. But So-hee's mother knew that once the burial was done, the case would be closed forever. She begged the supervisor to keep the body a bit longer so she could find evidence to reopen the case. The supervisor couldn't help her. He had to follow the rules. But the hospital director saw her begging. Perhaps moved by her sincerity, he decided to make an exception and secretly stored So-hee's body in the freezer. The supervisor warned him not to interfere, as it could bring legal trouble. But the director said he believed the case would be solved soon and was willing to take the risk to help the family. This kind-hearted director was Ju's father. After that, Yeon-jin's mother kept receiving threatening messages, which drove her nearly insane. Desperate, she went straight to the police station to find Officer Shin. She demanded he personally deal with this mysterious person, or she would ruin him. Her threats made Officer Shin resent her. At this moment, the nanny brought a secret tip. She discovered that Officer Shin had been visiting an abandoned funeral home multiple times. So the two slipped in under the cover of night. They found that although the funeral home was no longer in use, the electric meter was still running heavily, indicating something strange. Dong-yoon suspected that Myong-oh might be hidden inside. To confirm her suspicion, Ju bought the funeral home. Then, they both went back there. When they said they wanted to look inside, the man guarding the door seemed to remember something and said he needed to make a call first. Ju asked if he was calling Officer Shin. Realizing they knew about Officer Shin, the man didn't stop them. As Dong-yoon guessed, Myong-oh's body was indeed hidden inside. They then paid the guard double to work for them. After that, Dong-eun bought a bag of drugs from some underworld friends. She then went to Sarah's father's church. Using a pre-prepared, unregistered phone, she sent Sarah a few pictures showing the drugs. The pictures showed it was hidden backstage at the church. Unable to resist her addiction, Sarah went backstage alone while others were reading scriptures. As the effects kicked in, Sarah started hallucinating. She even saw the dead Myong-oh. Her father's church suffered a hit to its reputation. Soon, Yeon-jin arrived on the scene. She asked if Dong-eun of setting this up, and Dong-eun admitted it. Yeon-jin mocked her, saying it was pointless because Sarah was a first-time offender and would be released soon. But Dong-eun told her to worry about herself. Before coming to the church, Dong-eun had exposed Yeon-jin's past as a bully. When Yeon-jin checked her phone, the news was already trending, and she realized the seriousness of the situation. Dong-eun told her that Sarah might get out quickly, but she wouldn't, as she had killed multiple people. Shocked, Yeon-jin demanded proof. Dong-eun replied that she had plenty of evidence. Soon, Sarah was arrested by the police for drug use. The bullying case didn't reveal the bully's name, so everyone online was guessing who it was. The nanny then directly commented Yeon-jin's name. This comment instantly caused a huge stir on the internet. When company executives accused her, Yeon-jin remained arrogant. She demanded they show proof that she was the person everyone was talking about online. Her refusal to admit anything disgusted Do-young. Unable to reach Myong-oh, Hae-jong suspected he was also under Dong-eun's control. She remembered Myong-oh had a tablet, so she went to Jae-jun's new driver, found the tablet in the car, and found a recording on it. It was from the night Yeon-jin killed Myong-oh. Hae-jong immediately brought the recording to Jae-jun. After learning the truth, Jae-jun surprisingly proposed to Hae-jong. He wanted to find a new mother for his daughter. Hae-jong, who had always liked Jae-jun, agreed and broke up with her fiancé. When the doorbell rang, she thought Jae-jun had returned and went to open the door happily. But it was Yeon-jin who walked in. Hae-jong declared she was now with Jae-jun, but Yeon-jin didn't care and asked why Hae-jong had lured her to the beauty salon. She suspected Dong-eun was behind it, but Hae-jong was no longer afraid of Yeon-jin. She said she'd do whatever she wanted and didn't need to report to anyone. Yeon-jin could only leave, holding back her anger. The next day, Hae-jong visited Sarah in jail. She began stirring up trouble between Sarah and Yeon-jin. Thanks to Sarah's drug scandal and her art show's tax evasion news, Yeon-jin's scandal lost some attention. This made Sarah resent Yeon-jin. Meanwhile, the police questioned Yeon-jin about Myong-oh's disappearance. As the real killer, she was terrified. She went to Officer Shin again, asking him to stop the investigation. This time, Officer Shin refused, saying he was about to retire and didn't want any more trouble. He also asked her to buy him a house abroad. Yeon-jin laughed in anger, asking why he thought she'd listen to him. Officer Shin replied that Myong-oh's body was still not buried. Yeon-jin had no choice but to agree to his demands. When they arrived at the funeral home, they found the body was missing. Officer Shin quickly called the guard, but his phone was already off. Meanwhile, the police found a body at an abandoned building. It was Myong-oh. After Hae-jong saw the news, she immediately called Yeon-jin. She said she had evidence of Yeon-jin's crime and demanded money in exchange. This completely shattered the friendship among the bullies. With nowhere else to turn, Yeon-jin asked Jae-jun for help, reminding him that she was the mother of his daughter. Mentioning their daughter softened Jae-jun. Then he insisted Yeon-jin explain exactly how she killed Myong-oh. Yeon-jin claimed it was just an accident, and that the body's reappearance was probably Dong-eun's doing. She begged Jae-jun to save her so she could return to him with their daughter. Jae-jun was shocked by her shamelessness, but couldn't accept the truth of his daughter having a murderer for a mother. Later, Jae-jun went to Do-young with a recording of Yeon-jin admitting to the murder. He demanded that Do-young divorce her and give up custody of their child. He guessed that Do-young wouldn't want their daughter's mother to be a killer either. Do-young, feeling threatened, grew furious but didn't have a better option. Meanwhile, Dong-eun had to quit her job at the school due to parents' complaints. She told her mother she'd left the school as required and asked her to leave her home. When Dong-eun got home, her mother was still there, eating barbecue. The woman even shouted that she would never leave and demanded Dong-eun take care of her in old age. Dong-eun refused firmly, saying their bond was broken the moment her mother took money from others. Angry, Her mother threatened to teach Dong-eun a lesson. Dong-eun wasn't afraid at all. At that moment, the meat on the grill suddenly burst, startling Dong-eun, who crouched in fear. Seeing her daughter's reaction, her mother realized Dong-eun feared hot things. Dong-eun broke down, begging her mother to stop laughing. Her mother grew more excited and the flames quickly spread. Dong-eun was terrified, barely able to breathe, and begged her mother for help. But her mother insisted Dong-eun admit she was wrong. Suddenly, Dong-eun began laughing and thanked her mother for never changing. This was all part of Dong-eun's plan. She'd set up cameras in the room and recorded her mother's violent behavior, which a doctor would later diagnose as a mental disorder. As a result, her mother was forced into a mental hospital. Dong-eun hugged her struggling mother. As her mother's only family, only Dong-eun had the right to send her to a mental hospital. Finally, Dong-eun was free from her mother's control, and her revenge would reach its climax. Because Yeon-jin's mother ignored the blackmail texts, the nanny's husband started hanging around her house. He even made sure she saw him to scare her. It wasn't long before the woman finally broke down. She had no choice but to get the money ready. When the man got her call, he quickly pinched himself to check if he was dreaming. Realizing it was real, he rushed to the meeting place to get the money. The woman called Officer Shin, saying she had something important to discuss, but as soon as they met, she floored the gas pedal. Officer Shin shouted for her to stop, but it was too late. It turned out to be the nanny's husband. When Officer Shin saw the man's face, he realized the woman had killed him on purpose. This meant Officer Shin couldn't escape responsibility. The woman threatened him to cover up Myong-oh's case for Yeon-jin. She even kept the name tag that proved Officer Shin was her accomplice. Seeing her husband's body, the nanny collapsed on the spot. It wasn't until she walked out of the morgue in a daze that she finally cried out loud. She wasn't sad. She was relieved the nightmare was finally over. With Officer Shin's help, Yeon-jin quickly bailed her mother out. To ease her mind, the woman insisted on spending the night at the shaman's place. At that moment, the shaman was holding a grand ritual. Yeon-jin grew impatient and left. Suddenly, she heard someone call her name. She turned around confused. It was So-hee's spirit, possessing the shaman. This familiar scene left Yeon-jin at a loss. She felt a chill down her back. When she turned around again, she saw Dong-eun standing right behind her, staring intently. Then the shaman began calling her, muttering details about how So-hee was harmed. Back then, just because So-hee wore the same clothes as her, Yeon-jin made her take them off in front of everyone. When So-hee refused, Yeon-jin, furious and humiliated, dragged her up to the rooftop, insisting she take her clothes off. Scared, So-hee begged for mercy, but Yeon-jin didn't plan to let her go. Watching So-hee's panic, Yeon-jin couldn't help but laugh. So-hee accidentally pulled off her name tag. Yeon-jin pushed her away in fear. Dong-eun was downstairs, filling out her withdrawal papers, and when she heard the noise, she quickly got up to check. There, she witnessed a murder. Yeon-jin quickly called her mother, who told her to leave the scene and let Officer Shin handle it. But Yeon-jin didn't notice her lighter had fallen. Dong-eun found Yeon-jin's name tag left behind and placed it in the police complaint box as evidence. However, it ended up in Yeon-jin's mother's hands, who kept it ever since. Yeon-jin was stunned. Only she knew these things, yet the shaman described everything perfectly. The shaman began muttering again, saying she saw So-hee. She warned So-hee to leave the living world. With that, the shaman collapsed and died in front of everyone. Yeon-jin fled in panic, while Dong-eun was also shaken by the sudden events. In desperation, Yeon-jin begged Do-young for help. Do-young gave her two choices: turn herself in or get divorced now. Yeon-jin chose the latter. Soon, news of the famous anchor's divorce from her wealthy husband was all over the headlines. Seeing the news, Yeon-jin laughed to hide her disappointment. At night, when Yeon-jin's mother returned home, she found Dong-eun waiting at the door. Dong-eun said she had proof that Yeon-jin's mother had deliberately hit a man with her car. If she didn't want to go to jail, she needed to hand over Yeon-jin's name tag in exchange. Meanwhile, after getting released, Sa-ra blamed everything on Yeon-jin. To get revenge, she posted a video online of Yeon-jin bullying So-hee. Seeing her co-workers' strange looks and hearing questions from her boss, Yeon-jin realized her secret was out. Still, she arrogantly handed in her resignation. Even her daughter, after learning the truth, started to dislike her. Yeon-jin knew she had to do something. She then held a press conference. This time she admitted to bullying her classmate but blamed it on being young and foolish. As for murder, she denied it completely. She even tried to make herself look like the victim, saying she'd been harassed by the dead girl's family for years and now faced online bullying. She added that So-hee committed suicide because she was pregnant and that she had kept it a secret to protect So-hee's reputation. At Myung-oh's funeral, the bullies gathered again. Hae-jong stirred up trouble again. She anonymously sent out a video showing Sa-ra and Myung-oh in an intimate scene. Since Sa-ra had just exposed Yeon-jin, she assumed this was Yeon-jin's revenge. Just then, Yeon-jin arrived at the funeral. Sa-ra stormed over and confronted her. This was exactly what Hae-jong wanted to see, so she taunted them both, one woman who betrayed her friend, and another who exposed a dead girl's pregnancy. Suddenly, Jae-jun realized something. Sa-ra quickly figured out that Hae-jong was behind it all. Furious, she grabbed Hae-jong, pulled out the hairpin from her hair, and stabbed her. Sa-ra was arrested on the spot for assault. Luckily, Hae-jong was rushed to the hospital in time and survived, but she could never speak again. Jae-jun broke up with her on the spot. Abandoned, Hae-jong was filled with resentment. Then Jae-jun found Ju and kept asking about So-hee's autopsy results, but Ju wouldn't tell him anything. The autopsy back then showed that So-hee was pregnant. Dong-eun originally suspected it was Myung-oh, but now it seems the one who hurt So-hee was Jae-jun. Seeing that Yeon-jin couldn't be saved, Jae-jun met with Yeon-jin's mother-in-law. He asked the woman if she could remove his daughter from their family registry. The woman felt humiliated and frantically called Do-young, but Do-young decided to take his daughter abroad. Meanwhile, the police found Dong-eun. They discovered information on So-hee's case in Myung-oh's email, which came from Dong-eun. Dong-eun told them to check the lighter found at the crime scene. In So-hee's case, there might be fingerprints on it. The police retrieved the lighter from the evidence bag and sent it for testing. Soon, the results showed that DNA on the lighter matched the DNA under Myung-oh's fingernails. Realizing something was off, the police found all DNA samples related to So-hee's case. Meanwhile, Yeon-jin's mother, trying to protect herself, gave Yeon-jin's name tag to Dong-eun. Suddenly, Yeon-jin walked in. It was clear this was part of Dong-eun's plan. She wanted Yeon-jin to feel what it was like to be abandoned by her mother. After this, Yeon-jin became mentally unstable. She received a video. In it, the bottle she used to kill Myung-oh was shown back in its original place. Her mind went blank, and she rushed to the crime scene only to find the police investigating it. Yeon-jin was then arrested. Do-young officially signed the divorce papers with her. Because the nanny refused to reconcile, Yeon-jin's mother was also arrested for accidental manslaughter. Dong-eun went to the hospital and asked Hae-jong if she wanted revenge on Jae-jun. Then she left a mysterious injection. That night, Hae-jong found Jae-jun and lied, saying she came to pick something up. Jae-jun didn't suspect anything and let her in. Hae-jong took the chance to inject something into Jae-jun's eye drops. Thinking everything was over, Jae-jun went to the school to pick up his daughter, only to learn she was going abroad. He knew this had to be Do-young's doing. He tried calling to confront him, but the phone was already off. Jae-jun had no choice but to drive over to try to stop it. Halfway there, his eyes started feeling uncomfortable, so he used the eye drops to relieve it. But after using them, his eyes hurt even more. This led to a fatal car accident. The next day, Dong-eun visited Yeon-jin in prison. She mocked Yeon-jin for how miserable she looked now. Yeon-jin was furious. Then, Dong-eun said she wasn't actually the one who killed Myung-oh. It turns out that when Yeon-jin called Officer Shin, Myung-oh suddenly woke up. He called for help from a store employee, but the girl picked up a bottle. She was once bullied by them at school, just like Dong-eun. Myung-oh had also recently bullied her, so she wanted revenge too. Panicked, she fled the scene with the bottle. She later asked Dong-eun for help. Dong-eun took the bottle, put it back where it belonged, and sent a video to Yeon-jin, which led Yeon-jin to rush back to the scene and get caught. Knowing she was framed, Yeon-jin had no way to defend herself, which eventually led to her insanity. Whenever the prison bully asked about the weather, Yeon-jin started delivering the weather report. In the end, every bully got their deserved punishment. Dong-eun's revenge was complete. Dong-eun then gave the nanny some money, telling her to go live the life she wanted. Though sad, they had to part ways. After saying goodbye, Dong-eun invited Ju to the seaside for the first time. That night, she felt free. even smiling like never before. But soon, she sent Ju away and called him to say goodbye. By the time Ju came back, Dong-eun was already gone. Now, Dong-eun was standing on a rooftop, ready to end her life, which she saw as ruined and empty. Just as Dong-eun was about to jump, someone called out to her. It was Ju's mother. She begged Dong-eun to help save her son from the hell. It turned out Ju had a tragic past. One day, a wounded murderer came to the hospital. No one wanted to operate on him, except Ju's father. But during the surgery, the man killed Ju's father. Ju witnessed it all and was devastated. The man even looked pleased with himself. He was sentenced to life in prison, but that wasn't enough for Ju. What made it worse was that the man kept writing letters to Ju, describing the joy he felt from killing his father, further tormenting him. For years, Ju felt like he was living in hell. Meeting Dong-eun brought a little warmth to his life. After hearing this, Dong-eun decided to help Ju. She went to a temple to find Hae-jung's ex-mother-in-law. The old woman had a very powerful background, and Dong-eun had been doing volunteer work at the temple, which won her favor. So Dong-eun asked her for help to transfer the murderer to Korea's most dangerous prison. The old woman agreed. She first arranged for someone to have a conflict with the murderer, then used that as a reason to transfer him to another prison. Dong-eun became a volunteer instructor at the prison, and Ju took a job as the prison doctor. When the man arrived, he saw Ju waiting for him. Fear filled his mind, because Ju had once warned him to be careful of everything around him if they met again. The man knew he couldn't escape this time. Meanwhile, the nanny got a message. Dong-eun asked her if she still wanted to work together. She put on the lipstick Dong-eun gave her and dressed up beautifully. Dong-eun and Ju were also ready.